All right, we're rolling. Andrew Garden.
How we doing?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Amazing. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, dude, appreciate you doing this. Crazy to think. Like, we only, a couple months ago, we met sitting right over there.
Yeah, you were showing me your mosquito bites just in September, and here we are. I didn't mean to air you out like that on the recording, but...
Honestly, there's probably like an embarrassing amount of people who have seen my mosquito bites on my feet that will watch these podcasts.
Fair enough.
It was like, it got to the point where like I would start talking about the issue, and then like I was like, but it's all on my feet, and I wanted to show people my feet, but I'm like, I can't show you my feet. That's weird. I was like, but to be fair, like honestly, I don't even think I told you this. Like the first time we met, I think I did show you my feet.
I did, yeah. Or you did, yeah.
Thoughts?
Oh yeah, it was. It's still scarred in my mind for sure. Yeah, it's still burned in my memory. Yeah.
It was brutal, dude.
I'm sorry that you went through that.
Yeah, it was a hard period of time, but we're here now. We made it. How you been, dude? How's the last couple weeks been for you?
Good. We did a show in San Diego a couple weeks ago, which was fun. Just been working on music. Put out another single. So yeah, it's been good, man. I still definitely feel like I'm adjusting to living in LA a bit, but it's been a couple months, so I feel like I'm a bit more settled than I was. Like we moved in like September, so yeah. But it's been good. I like LA. Just trying to do as many sessions as possible, meet as many people. So
have you developed like a routine yet since you've been down here? Like you got to a place where it's like you're past like the moving in part, so you have all the moving in responsibilities.
I'm definitely past the moving in stage. I feel like I'm still kind of like trying different things as far as routine. Like I'm usually I'll try. What I have been doing is like I'll try and get up and do some sort of like exercise, do something like that. So I just feel like I'm like just like get my blood flowing, like wake up a little bit, and then like try and work out in the morning, and then after that I'll probably come back and like try and work for a couple hours, and then what I was noticing is I would come back for a couple hours, and then I would kind of like break concentration because I had to eat, and that's like the most eating is like the enemy of creating for me. I don't know, it's like so it's just like it's like a break in my focus, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to find ways that I can like just create like longer periods of time where I'm like I don't have to feel like anything's gonna distract me, even if it's something as much as like making a sandwich. Like I just want to be able to like focus fully. So like I've been trying to just wake up and just like go straight into working on music and just like spend the morning doing that, and then maybe like go and I'll like get lunch, and then I'll exercise, something like that, as opposed to like just so I have like the whole morning to kind of focus on music, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm more creative in the earlier part of the day too. So
I totally agree. I'm the exact same way, and that's why I wake up so early. Like I've always woken up early because I feel like late at night, like past like 8 or 9, I'm just like not functional.
For sure.
No, I feel that. I've been trying to get that kind of more like isolated creative period of my day as well.
It's important. Yeah.
I was watching Lex Friedman, this video of him talking about his like day schedule and like the way that he schedules out his day, and he has like, I found it very interesting. He has like 2 different periods of like isolated work time. So it's like instead of trying to like work throughout the day, what he'll do is like he'll sit down for like in one period of 4 hours, and then he'll sit down for like another period of 4 hours and just work straight through.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I guess that like gets, and he was explaining like, I guess through the brain that makes you like way more focused since you're not thinking about anything else but that one thing.
Yeah.
I've been trying to find that too, but it is hard like in the music industry because I feel like we all just like work whenever throughout the day. Like and there's not really like a clock in, clock out. You're just kind of like working in some capacity always.
Yeah. Well, that's why also I like being able to do sessions with other people, and like that gives me kind of some level of like a schedule and accountability. But a lot of times it's definitely just me working solo, like writing and stuff, or coming up with ideas. But I don't know, I like the collaborative aspect, because when I was most of the time I've been making music, which is like 5+ years, 6+ years since I've been releasing music at least, all that time I was in school, so I didn't really have as much time and accessibility to collaborators or other musicians, just because that was not really the environment I was around. I was mainly just around other people getting their degrees and stuff, which is cool. It was fun to be in that environment, but now I'm able to surround myself with more other like creatives and just people who are making music, which has been cool. And like that's been a big change, which has been it's been cool. It's been awesome to have those kind of people around me and like push me and motivate me. So
you went to SDSU, right?
University of San Diego.
Oh, University of San Diego.
But I was there for 4 years, and then I graduated in May, and it was great. But I wasn't studying anything related to music at all. I came in, there was like a music entrepreneurship minor, and I was doing that, and it was just like I did a couple of the classes, and I just felt like I was getting nothing out of it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pivot here. So I did marketing and data analytics. So nothing double major. So nothing related to music. But the marketing stuff I feel like helped me a little bit with like promoting music, but not really. They weren't like, it's not like they were in class like, here's how to make the song of the summer, or like by a TikTok or something like that. It's not like that's it. They were just talking about like the most generic stuff in the world. So,
yeah,
I mean,
that makes sense. Was that like isolating at all? Because it'd be interested. Like I feel like if I was in that environment, I just would, especially if like I was doing nothing related to music, I would have these so many like musical thoughts and so many like creative thoughts in my head. But I'm around people that like don't really like share that. That drive or those interests. Like how did you kind of get those ideas out at all? Were you just like literally like, okay, I'm gonna work on music and I'm not gonna tell anybody, or would you talk about your friends with the music?
No, everyone knew I did music, so that was good. And it wasn't, I don't know, in some ways maybe it was a little bit, I don't know if isolating is the right word, but I definitely felt a little bit like sometimes I kind of didn't share the same interests with as my friends or people that I was like going to school with. But it was also kind of cool to be around people who were just very much not doing anything creative. I felt like that also just kind of gave me like a different perspective on like, I don't know, just how, I don't know, I guess I think that when you're living in a city like LA and you're surrounded by creative people all the time, it can almost be kind of like a bubble where you're like, okay,
totally.
And you like, I don't know, maybe you forget what like people, quote unquote, normal people or people who are not pursuing this, you know, like how they see the world or like how they look at music too, especially how they look at music. Cause I always find it really interesting to see how anyone, but especially people who aren't in the music industry, just like how they consume music, what music resonates with them. Like just literally like going through I'll stalk so many people's Spotify's and just like look at it and just see like, okay, what are they like listening to? What's like making their playlist? What's like, or even just seeing their reaction to songs in the car. Like, I don't know, that stuff's just really interesting to me because at the end of the day, like, I don't know, I want to be able to make music that I think resonates with everyone, and like that's important to me. I mean, I just think it's cool to be able to get that perspective, you know.
100%. Yeah. I talk to a lot of people about this all the time. It's like I think when we exist in this like music industry, like music world bubble, we get so wrapped up in thinking that like everybody consumes music in the same way that people do in the music industry,
100%.
Which is just like not true at all.
Yeah,
like
sure.
we can get so wrapped up in this world where I'm thinking like, and, you know, I think this happens a lot with like instrumental music as well. People get to the point where it's like they think people are like dissecting the theory behind every song, or they think people are talking about like, you know, well, like like I know a guy who like he always just talks about how like untraditional chord progressions are like things that or like he'll point out the chord progression in a song, and if it's like a very traditional structure, he'll be like, how do people like enjoy this? And like my answer is always like, it's because no one thinks about that.
Yeah,
the average person is not like dissecting whether or not you're playing with like a more traditional chord structure or not, you know.
Yeah, man, if it's catchy, if it hits, like if it's gonna work. It doesn't really like, it's definitely I mean I definitely, even myself, like I don't really come from like a super musical background, so like I definitely don't, I don't look at music that way when it comes down to like the theory of it. I know like basic music theory, but like that's not something that I'm thinking about when I'm making music. And I don't know, man, I kind of feel like I think there's a lot of value in knowing theory, and like that's a really valuable skill, and I'm like that's something I'm working on, is I'm like trying to improve as a guitar player and just instrumentalist and learning stuff like that. But on the other hand, I think also when you really break stuff down to that level, it's kind of like explaining a joke where like losing it's like magic, you know.
I've never thought about it like that. That is a very interesting way to think about it, because you're right. Like when you do kind of like demystify these things, they almost don't have the same allure as they once did.
For sure. I mean, it's like trying to quantify every little thing is just, it's gonna drive you crazy, you know?
It's like overanalyzation, like over-intellectualization. Sure. It's like just, it doesn't do anything for anybody.
Yeah.
At that time when you were making music, and like, so you said like all your friends really knew about it at UC San Diego?
Yeah. Everyone knew about it, and like it was definitely like a part of my identity for sure. Yeah.
Were you doing the Young Nugget stuff back then?
Yeah.
Or were you Andrew Garden?
I was. So when I came into school, I was just doing the Young Nugget stuff, and then like about a year, right around my start of my sophomore year, so this was like 2020, like end of 2020 is when I kind of like launched that Andrew Garden project as well. And I was doing both of them for about a year, and then I like fully transitioned to just doing Andrew Garden, which is like where I'm at now. So,
was that premeditated? Like, was the goal to like, you know, get some traction doing the kind of like the meme stuff, and then like get to a point where you could do this?
I mean, it wasn't like, not at the start for sure. Like when I started making music as Young Nugget, it was like 2018, and like I was just doing it because I thought it was fun and I liked it, and I really, that was just the music I thought was cool, like just making funny shit. Like I don't know, like that was really fun to me, and like I didn't even like start thinking about considering like what would a serious music project be for me for probably not till like a year or two. Like I probably was doing Young Nugget for about a year or a little over a year until I even started like ideating like what would a serious music project be. And then I like tried a bunch of stuff like that I never really released. It was like, or I just throw it on SoundCloud, and I was like pretty conscious of like, while I was working on my Young Nugget music, I was working on a lot of other music too, but I was kind of, I don't know, I think part of me was definitely also afraid to really promote it on my Young Nugget account, and also part of me was just conscious that it like wasn't really as good as I wanted it to be. So I was like, okay, I don't want to launch this until I feel more confident like the music is good. So I don't know, I guess it's hard to explain, but I guess it's kind of like when your taste and your skill level are like, there's a gap between them. Like I loved, like I knew the kind of music I wanted to be making, but I didn't really have the skill to make it yet. Like I'd never sung in my life before. I didn't like have any sort of like vocal training, and I was just like learning that stuff as I was going along. And so it took me a while to get to a point where I was like, okay, I feel more confident in the music that I'm making as Andrew Garden. And then that was kind of when I took that leap of trying to promote it. And at that point I had built up more of an audience as Young Nugget, but it wasn't like I started making music and being like, this is a good way for me to get a launching point in my career. That wasn't like how I thought about it, because I didn't even think about music as a career for the longest time. I was just like, this is really fun, and like, this is awesome, people are listening, so I'm going to keep going. But it was a long time before I was like, okay, this is like something I'm going to pursue as a career.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Like when your taste is more elevated than your skill level.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but
it's gotta be. I've never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's I still feel like that sometimes, where I'm like, I know there's music I want to make, or at least songs that I hear and I'm like, this is just really powerful, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I'm definitely more confident in my skill level than I was back then, but I still feel like, I don't know. It just takes time, and it takes a repetition of working on stuff and developing your skills as like a songwriter or whatever it may be, to really like to make the music that you want to make, or the music that resonates with you. I mean, I definitely, I think in my opinion, I think that having that taste is like the most important thing, because I also think that there are a lot of cases in my experience where the inverse happens, where people have a lot of raw talent, or even talent that's been developed through years of vocal training and stuff like that, but maybe, at least in my eyes, I feel like their taste of what they're creating is, it's not very focused, and it's not like, it's the music that they end up making is maybe, I don't know. I can't really, maybe like, I guess when we look at it, is that sometimes I think people look at, like first, let's say someone's like a classically trained vocalist, like they look at making a song as like, how can I show off every little vocal skill I have, where I'm doing a ton of crazy runs and hitting crazy high notes and things like that, almost like a competition of like, how can I like flex all my vocal skills, and instead of like thinking of what's gonna make the best song, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if that was the best example, but I guess I think you need to have both really good, like really like a great taste and a lot of talent to make great music. I think that like both those are necessary, and obviously taste is subjective, and so is talent. But I mean, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of talented people that don't make music that I like, at least. They make, in my opinion, like kind of crappy music. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with you. It's a very, very interesting concept. Like, there is a very clear difference between like somebody, and I think, you know, you can make up for one with the other too, where it's like somebody can have really, really good taste and like understand like things that are like incredibly appealing to other people, and maybe not have like the skill to get there, but because they understand what people will like, they can like make their best version of that.
Totally. That's always how I looked at myself, honestly, especially when I was starting, is that like I knew exactly what this specific niche of this meme rap music called for, and like what people liked about it and what I liked about it, and I knew exactly like, and it just like I felt like I was so like it just was felt like natural to me because I was fucking 17 and just like doing fun, like I like doing funny shit like that. And so, but I didn't have any sort of experience recording music, so like it was all so new to me, and I was so early in that like journey of figuring that out. But like just because of the music I was making, I guess it just kind of worked. And also the imperfections also like just kind of came off as like part of the like the music, like, oh, this makes it funnier. Yeah. So
that's so interesting. So you said you were 17 when you started making that stuff?
Yeah.
Was it like what was the flame that started? Because in my head there's so many different ways that could begin. Like, did it begin with like you and your friends doing it, or was it just like I'm just gonna do this, or like? It
was more just me, honestly. I was like I think that the most influential moment for me in getting into music in general was definitely the 2016 like Sub XL, that whole freshman class and that cypher and everything about that like moment in time when like all that was kind of when the like SoundCloud rap scene exploded and like became more well known, and that was when I got into all that, and I really just loved that. That was before that I had been listening to rap music, and I liked rap music, but I was a little more passive about like that wasn't like maybe like a huge part of my identity. But then once I got really into that music, and like I was like, oh, this is like the coolest thing in the world. And so I was really just listening to a lot of music on SoundCloud that came from SoundCloud during that era. And then I found Young Gravy when he was like very small.
Yeah.
He probably had like 5,000 SoundCloud followers or something like that. He was.
What era was it? Do you remember? Because my brother was on Young Gravy super early. Do you remember like the song that?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh my God. I know he had like Splash Mountain was one of the songs that came out around that time. He hadn't dropped any of his like collab stuff with Baby No Money yet. I don't think it was like It was like right around when he was first doing that stuff. But yeah, it was a long time ago.
Mr. Clean era?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, Mr. Clean. That was like, I think that summer I found him was like when Mr. Clean started like popping off. But I was making beats at the time. I was just on like a channel where I was posting on YouTube like type beats, and so I sent him some of my beats. Yeah, this was like this was even before I was making Young Nugget music, so that was like 2017 when I started making like type beats on YouTube.
So you were like 17 years old, 16 years old, you
Probably
said?
16 when I started making type beats, and then 17 when I did the Nugget stuff. But yeah, so I was doing type beats. I was doing a lot of samples. I was sampling a lot of stuff and doing like Young Gravy type beats. Or I mean, after I found him, I was doing Young Gravy. Before that, I was doing like, oh my gosh, probably like Lil Pump type beats, like Lil Yachty, like just all these SoundCloud artists that were hot at the time that I was into. So I was doing that, and then I got really into sampling around then when I found the Gravy stuff, because I liked how he was using the samples with like the trap production. So that was really cool to me. So I sent him some beats, and he responded, which was really cool to me. He never used any of them, but his responding was like really exciting to me, because even though he's a small artist at the time, to me I was like, this is amazing, like this is so cool. So I was making beats for a while. He never got on any of them, and then people weren't really using them, so I was like, I'm just gonna try like using these beats. And so then like I was very low-key about that music. Like I didn't tell really any of my friends I was doing it. They kind of just like found out, because it would be like, I don't even know, it wasn't even like it was like doing super well, but like just like kind of maybe like one person found it like randomly, and then like they told another person, like it kind of word of mouth, so people in my school would know. But it was like I was very quiet about it. Like I remember that I was in a class when I was in the junior year of high school, and like there were these girls that were like at the front of the class, and they were had it listening on SoundCloud, and they were like looking back at me and like kind of like laughing, and I didn't even know if they were laughing with me or at me. I was like, what? I mean, I definitely was like, I remember feeling a little awkward or uncomfortable about it, but I kind of got used to it, because like by senior year, people would be like playing it in class and stuff, like, and just like because they thought it was funny, like they would be like, I remember I saw this video where some people like pulled it up on like the like projector or something. They held my SoundCloud up and they were like bumping it, and it's just like funny stuff like that. So that was
crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was fun. It was fun to like to feel. I think most people in my high school were pretty like accepting of it and thought it was like funny, so that was cool. It wasn't like looked at as like, people weren't like roasting me or anything. They thought it was like, pretty fast people started to like think it was funny and cool, so that was good. That definitely gave me confidence. But I was still pretty like, and then going into college, like I was a little more vocal about it, but I was still like, it was just kind of like something I did. I don't know, like it was, I don't know, I kind of liked having that, like, I
Separation?
felt like, yeah, I felt like, but it was also cool, like, yeah, it was like some Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana shit, I don't know, and that's a stupid comparison, but
Like
I just felt
life.
like, yeah, no, and I just like, I would definitely feel cool when like I would be in class and then someone would like pull it up and they'd be like, oh shit, like you have like X number of streams or whatever. Like I thought that would definitely like, my ego was definitely boosted by that. I'm not gonna lie, like that was cool to me.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I was doing that like throughout freshman year. I released a couple more songs, and then right around COVID is like when it started kind of like going viral. Like I had songs go up viral on TikTok, and like then kind of snowballed from there. And then like towards the end of that, this 2020, that's when I announced Andrew Guard and stuff. So yeah.
What an interesting, like, unique pipeline. Because it's so like, it's so strange to me that like people can make art, like their music specifically, that is like pop music, that is so meant to, you know, be casually and enjoyed in a fun way. But then it's like suddenly when you cross over into like that meme rap territory, it's like then you're kind of a joke. It's like the two different sides of things, but like, you know, they're kind of intended for the same thing, but it's like they're looked at in such different ways.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I never thought about it like that. I think, yeah, I was like kind of walking on that line where like I think that's really what Young Gravy's done a great job of, is that like,
yeah,
his music is always just supposed to be lighthearted and fun, and like he also, a very important thing is that he was never like, because there were people in that space that would kind of, in order to be funny, they might like say things that were misogynistic or like, or even worse, like homophobic, or just offensive things that like kind of in my eyes crossed like a line that I feel like Young Gravy has always been good about. Like he's never really crossed that line in my eyes, and he's always made sure the jokes were like pretty lighthearted and fun. And I tried to do the same thing, where I always tried to like make sure that the jokes in my songs were like kind of like, I was kind of the butt of the joke, as opposed to like making fun of like another person or like a community or anything like that. And I think that I never really had any issues with anyone being like offended by it. I mean, aside from them being really crass, but that's, I think, a big thing that is a reason that there's that distinction, is that like, I think that with pop music, like there's a certain level of like just talking about like I was just talking about things that were just very, like I was just talking about like jerking off and stuff like that, like stupid shit, I don't know, that like is like not really something that you're gonna hear someone talk about. And except maybe the only example I can think of in pop songs where people would talk about shit like that is maybe in like some like 90s like post pop punk stuff where people would talk
weird
about
new metal shit.
Yeah, would talk about like shit like, but even then it's like supposed to be kind of a joke. I mean, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I never really thought about it like that, where it is in kind of the same intention, where it's supposed to be like kind of lighthearted and supposed to make you like let you have fun. But I don't know. I mean, I guess people just perceive it differently. I don't know. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So this is very interesting to me, because it's like you, and well, you're 21 also, right?
23 now. Actually.
23.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're like, well, when's your birthday?
September 15th.
Okay, yeah. So you're like pretty much like a year and a half, 2 years older than me.
For sure.
I like very much am resonating with the parts that you're saying that are very, very internet based. Like you're talking about type beats. That was such like an online culture. That was such like a YouTube.
It still is, man, honestly.
For sure.
Like, it still is, yeah.
It's like it's such an online YouTube culture. You're talking about like the meme rap stuff was very online.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about like the SoundCloud era and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think like so much of what you were doing at that point was because like, were you a kid that was on the internet a ton as a kid?
Yeah.
Because like that, these are all such internet and web driven ideas that I remember from like when I was a teenager.
No, that's all totally like what inspired me and always has. And even in like my current part, like my current stage I am now of making music, like I always try to stay connected. Like, I don't know. That's something I think I have, like, something I think about sometimes is, like, at times I feel like I get, like I guess I always want to feel like I'm connected to that kind of culture. But at the same time, like, I also recognize that as I get older, I may not, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But I guess, like, yeah, and a short answer is that when I was younger, definitely super, super online, super chronically online, whatever. But, that was like definitely what influenced my music taste and all that. But and I think that still has kind of been the case, but maybe now, I don't know. I think that's something I think about a lot, where it's like I guess when I was making Young Nugget, like I always making that music, I always like felt like I was a part of like kind of an online subculture of people making that kind of music, you know?
Yeah.
And that was huge to me. And I think that was like a big part of why I was able to build the audience I did and just like make that music. But when I transitioned, I feel like now making music as Andrew Garden, I feel like I wanted to also, like, I still value that idea of having an online community.
Totally.
And I feel like I definitely have made a lot of awesome musician friends on the internet, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm as clearly a part of like a certain niche of making music. And that's something that I think has, I don't know, it's been like, that's something I do kind of miss, is like the idea of like specifically feeling like there's this community of people that like X kind of music, and like that's like, I don't know, it's just, and like that's a subculture in and of itself. And I think that's something that I still think about, and like I want to be conscious of, is, I don't know, I think, because there's also tons of artists that I think a lot of artists don't think like that, and a lot of artists, which it's very valid, but a lot of artists just are like, hey, I love making this style of music, this is the music I make, I'm gonna like put it out and like hope it reaches like the people that enjoy it, but they aren't maybe necessarily like, I'm part of this online, like they don't identify themselves as clearly with one subculture, if that makes sense.
Totally.
But I don't know, I see both sides, because I think the downside of of being a part of one subculture is that you can box yourself in, which is what happened kind of with Young Nugget, where I was like, I was conscious of the fact that if I were to try and make music that wasn't in this pretty narrow style, that wasn't funny, then I was conscious of the fact that like it probably wouldn't be, and I did songs like that weren't received as well as like my funny music, you know? And so that was kind of me realizing like,
it was like the fear of being vulnerable enough to let yourself not be super successful.
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of like, I felt like I had to choose, where at least as Young Nugget, I was like, I either can make this kind of song that almost follows like a formula, where I know it'll give me more success, or I can be outside of that box and maybe not see as much success, you know? And that was like that. I didn't really like having to choose one or the other. And so I figured like that was kind of what motivated me to completely rebrand and start a new project, as opposed to just like releasing serious music under that name, you know? Because I guess I was aware of like, it would be a lot harder for like a new person, for someone who'd never heard of Young Nugget or Andrew Garden, to like, let's say they were to hear one of my songs, but it was like under the name Young Nugget with all that kind of like, I think that would maybe just have turn some people off and be like, what is, like, why, like, it's hard to like take that seriously when the entire brand I had built and the entire like style and aesthetic was all very fun to like, I think that it would be hard. Like, I knew that it would be hard to gain new listeners who like didn't see me as a joke, almost, if that makes sense, you know?
Interesting. Yeah. It's like trying to figure out like the listener's motive structure, and then like where you exist in that world, because it's like you were like pretty much like making a joke and you know, poking fun at yourself and poking fun at like whatever, and it's like you were essentially like making comedy at that point. Like, you were like, you know, you were a comedian in a lot of ways, like you were like a meme rapper, and it's like that inherently in itself is like a kind of art where it's like people are gonna look at and they're gonna laugh and they're not gonna think much deeper about it. But it's interesting because it's like it's almost like you were laughing at yourself, and then suddenly everybody started watching you do it.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Were
That's
you
an interesting
like,
way of putting it?
Do you think you were like, and this is super interesting to me, do you think you were like trying to like get the success of Young Nugget at a certain point? Like, because the whole thing, what's interesting to me is like, I feel like there's tons of people who like make joke songs, to make rap songs that like are like a joke, but they never have the intention to like be successful with it. They just do it, put it out, it's a joke, it's funny, whatever. Yeah. Was there a certain point when you found that community where you realized all these people were like trying to do this thing? Like, they were like, you know, making a joke, but they were trying to make the joke land.
Honestly, I think pretty early on, that's kind of what seeing Gravy's success like made me realize. I was like, people, you can actually like people will actually listen to this, and like people will actually like come back to this and follow you as an artist and not just be like, because also it was when I saw Gravy, I saw like, okay, he doesn't. It's not like he just has one song that people are listening to. Like, sure, Mr. Clean was his hit, but he had other songs that people were coming back to.
He still has fans.
Still has fans, man. Like, he has a diehard fan base, yeah. And that was a realization for me too, because I think that was definitely a factor where I was like, from the start, I was like, even though it was a joke, I was like, I think that I could get people to listen to this. Like, people, I think that was pretty early on. I was like, I think, and at first, looking back at the very first songs, like, I don't know, they're pretty bad. There's not much redeeming qualities about them, but like, I don't know. I think just the fact that I had that mentality where I was like, I don't know. I think seeing others being able to do it gave me like the idea of like, or gave me that belief that like, okay, I can actually, as much as this may be silly and a joke, I could actually like I could do something here. Like, I could get people to listen to this music, you know? Like, I think I believed that pretty early on, which is like, I think that was valuable and actually giving me motivation to like keep doing it. I don't know. But at the same time, I think another important thing is that I always had kind of that fallback of being like, oh, it's just a joke. If it failed, I could always just like, or if someone hated it, I could just be like, oh, well, I was just kidding anyway. So it's like, I kind of just had that. If I didn't have that fail safe almost, or that kind of like a thing to fall back on, I don't know if I would have been as confident to just be like, I'm gonna start releasing music, because like, it's definitely way scarier to just be like, this is something that is serious, that I am coming from my heart, you know, and like is like a song that is not a joke. That's definitely scarier, and I understand why it's like, I understand why people, I mean, I've struggled with that, and I understand why people struggle with that fear of being like, okay, I'm gonna put out like this song that means so much to me, you know, like, because to me those songs, while they actually, I mean, to be honest, while they were still meaningful to me, I could play it off, you know, I could be like, oh, it was just
it's a joke, whatever, yeah. And then like when you started Andrew Garden, it was like you're cutting that safety net. It's like you're getting rid of that excuse of like, this is no longer a joke. This is me. I'm putting my heart out to you. If you don't like it, that's gonna suck. Yeah,
definitely.
Did you like find this is fascinating for me too, because when you were talking about Young Gravy, I think like, I'm wondering now, like, what does a Young Gravy fan look like? Like, what is a Young Gravy fan? Like, why do they resonate with the music? Like, when you found fans, like, under the Young Nugget project, like, why were they fans? Like, what did they resonate towards? And, like, was it more than a joke to them?
That's a good question, man. I think that they were, the Young Nugget fans and a lot of the fans in that in general sphere are definitely, like, on the younger side, like probably like late middle school, early high school, and like a lot of when I have done shows, a lot of like the people that will show up that are like really fans, they'll be like young, they'll be like in like early high school or middle, like, which is crazy to see. But I
like that shit when I was like a freshman in high school.
But it's cool that like I had this kid show up to a show a few months ago, and like he was like 15, I think, and he like knew all the words to like the Andrew Garden stuff too, which is really cool.
Wow, yeah. That's really cool.
So it's like cool to see people follow that.
And he said he found you from Young Nugget?
I didn't even ask him, but I would guess, like, I would say there's probably a 90% chance, but I don't even know. I have to. I think maybe he did say that, but I guess that's a good point. Maybe there's a chance that he didn't, but I feel like that was just kind of, in my eyes, I think that's a very natural, or a lot of the people that are still big fans of my music and of the Andrew Garden stuff are like, they came from the old music and they kind of matured with the new music, where they like, maybe they got a little bit older and they started like, maybe they grew out of that phase as I grew out of the phase myself, and then they started to resonate more with like alternative music or indie music or whatever. And I mean, that's the ideal, and that's I think what's happened for some people is that like they've also been able to like kind of mature with the music, which is cool.
I think that makes sense. I mean, even if you look at the numbers, like, it's very interesting. Like we were looking at this the other day. It's like, in terms of monthly listeners, I know monthly listeners are fleeting and it matters and it doesn't, but it's like Andrew Garden and Young Nugget have like the
like
same,
neck and neck.
It's very neck and neck. So I wonder, like, I'm curious if like there is a big spillover. Like I wonder if, like, 'cause that's a really cool idea to me. Like people getting older and maturing with the music, and as they matured with it, they saw something in you that was them changing and getting out of this world, and then that's why they resonate so much with Andrew Garden music.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's like watching kids grow up. That's so cool.
Thanks, man. I think that's definitely happened for some people. I think that I would say that definitely there has like that having that already having the pre-existing audience from Young Nugget definitely gave me a big, or like a nice like I don't know what the right word is. I guess like I don't want to like head start, but yeah, like something, or like just like I had like a foundation already built of like people that cared about my music, which is like so, because that's the hardest thing to do as an artist, is to just get like anyone to care at all. You know what I mean? So having that was just like so helpful in being able to like to continue making music and continue to build an audience, all that stuff, you know. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, I guess like I do think that the majority of the people that listen to Young Nugget, like I recognize that a lot of the people just wanted that music, and that's okay. Like I understand that. When I like made that announcement video where I was like retiring, I was very clear that I was, instead of being like, oh, everyone please check out this new music, like you need to, like I was tried to be a little more accepting and be like, I would appreciate if you listen to my new music, like that would mean a lot to me, but if you don't and you just like love the new music, I understand. Like I just want, I try to be like, I don't know, I always want to be respectful to people that listen to my music, and I never want to come off as like someone who is like pushing or imploring people to listen to the music.
Selling.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's the perfect word. Yeah, I don't want to come off like that. So I don't know. I'm very like, I won't lie. It definitely gets annoying sometimes where I feel like everything I post on the internet is always comments about Young Nugget and all that stuff. That definitely,
I imagine, yeah.
It gets a little old, but I don't like, I understand it, and I am appreciative of like the fact that happened, that I had that, like I was able to make music like that, and like people cared about it. So I'm never like, I'm always grateful for that. But yeah, I do think that there are, while the majority or a lot of people may have, you know, kind of only been there for Young Nugget, there are people that do care about the new music, which is awesome, and it's incredible. So, and I think a lot of those people came from the old music, and then ideally, I mean, the whole reason I started the new project is so that it would be easier for completely people who had never even heard of Young Nugget to be able to find my music and appreciate it for what it was, as opposed to like having to see all the baggage of like the old music.
Wow.
Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm still like, I don't want to hide my old music, and I think
that's really noble. Like I think it's noble that you don't delete it, because you very easily could.
Never, yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna delete it.
Like I think you very easily could just delete it and say like, oh, like I'm, you know, this is the new me.
No, I would never do that.
But I think it's almost like you're getting rid of this period of yourself that, whether you like it or not, it exists.
Yeah.
It was you, you know? It's no longer you, but it was.
Yeah, man. That's definitely how I look at it. Yeah, I never want to like hide from that. I think that, yeah, but I think something that you were talking about earlier that really is like, I think a really just huge part of the way I look at music, and I'm glad you said it, was like that idea of like the online subculture. I think that's really a focus of mine right now, is like trying to figure out how I want to navigate like my new music, and how, because I don't know, I think like, I just think that goes back to what you were saying about taste too, is that like having that taste to understand, like to recognize these subcultures exist on the internet, and like understand what comes with that, and what the aesthetics and the trappings of each of those kind of like sounds and the art, just every aspect of it, like understanding that is like really crucial, and that really like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that I consider a lot, because I don't know, I guess like, I don't know. I think that's just like, that goes a lot into my creative process. It's still a part of it. It's hard to articulate fully, but that's just like, I just wanted to emphasize that, because I think that was a really good point.
Yeah, dude. Well, I think I totally hear you. Like, so it's almost like getting, like you had a community, then it's like moving forward and building another one.
Yeah,
it's like getting to this
exactly.
place where like the community is maybe not online, and it was still online, but it's also in person now.
That's a good point.
With
yeah.
Andrew Garden, it's like this is
Totally.
something that can grow with you and exist in person. It's like you
Totally.
can tour and you can play shows with Andrew
Yeah,
Garden, and
yeah.
there's like this whole world that can be opened up to you that maybe originally couldn't happen. It might have been more difficult to have that open up to you.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of the time when I was doing Young Nugget was during COVID, so live stuff wasn't really possible. But that's
Yeah.
definitely something that is one thing I do wish I had been able to do is at least do a couple shows like that with Young Nugget. I did like one performance in the end of my high school, which is really funny. Like we had which was fun, like end of my senior year. But yeah, man, live stuff is definitely been a game changer for sure, and that's something that I had like never had experience with. But even when I do play live, usually I didn't do it the last show because it was like the last show I did was 21 Up, and when I do 21 Up shows, I already am knowing that like a lot of it, because like I said, a lot of these Young Nugget fans are way younger, so like but when I'm doing all age shows and I know that like there would be fans like that'll pull up, I usually play Bruh Moment because like I do like a live version of it with the band. Yeah,
that's
like an indie
crazy.
rock, like an indie rock version almost, which is funny.
They probably love that.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. It's a good like kind of callback, I feel like.
That is cool. It's like giving a call back to like like I said, like a previous iteration of you.
Yeah. So that's really fun to do for sure.
When you were in that limbo period, where like, because there was a while where like both existed, right?
Yeah, about a year.
What were the steps where you began to get to the point? Like, at what point did you get to the point where like you wanted to fully transition into Andrew Garden? Why were you opposed to keeping them both around? And then like when you kind of got into the Andrew Garden stuff and like that kind of became what you were doing at the time, what were the first initial steps to start to create that community and start to like establish like the name Andrew Garden?
So when I first started the Andrew Garden project, I think another thing I haven't really touched on was that the first inspiration for that project and the music I was making was it was a lot more focused on bedroom pop, like early bedroom pop and stuff like that. That was like a big inspiration for me, and that was like kind of when I first started making music, that was what I was focused on. And I liked making, and like that was almost like the kind of online community that I was like I was really into. And then I don't know, I think I reached a point, like I think if I'd started making music at the Andrew Garden like a couple years earlier, and I had...
That was yours, I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. I think if I started making music like that a couple years earlier, then I maybe would have gotten more into that kind of sound. But that was that period when I was into the bedroom pop stuff. That was kind of the period I was talking about where my taste and my skill were in different levels. Where like
interesting,
I didn't really have the vocal chops and the songwriting sensibilities to like make songs that were like really that great in that style.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of a tangent. I guess getting back more to your question about like what you were saying about when I realized. So that was like, so I announced the music, the Andrew Garden stuff, and the songs that were out were all in that bedroom pop kind of style. And that was exciting that people like a lot of the people were like the old fans, or the Young Nugget fans were listening to that music, which was cool. And then during like that whole year, like after I announced that, then I released like another Young Nugget song that was. It was like kind of like a weird like Frankenstein where it was like kind of supposed to be like a rock song or not even indie rock, just like a rock song that was like still a Young Nugget song. And I was just like kind of trying to blend the two styles, and like it just didn't really work. Like I felt like it was a little forced, and like the fans didn't really like it, and I definitely felt disappointed where I was like, because I felt like that was kind of me trying to find a new style or a new way to combine these sounds, you know? And I felt like that made me feel kind of boxed in, because I was like, okay, well, this experiment didn't really work. And I definitely got discouraged from that. And then later in that year, that was now getting into 2021, I made like one more Young Nugget song that was kind of back to like the original roots of like it was more like trap production. It was very like, like, I don't know, just like happy melodies and all that stuff. And I did that, and like it did pretty well, but like I felt like it just didn't really like, I was like, this doesn't really feel like me that much. Like, it's kind of, at that point I already felt kind of disconnected from the music. And then I don't know, that was kind of like, that was really when I hit that limbo period. Was probably like the second half of 2021, especially that summer. of 2021, where I wasn't really releasing music or being that active. I did like another Angel Garden song that was like, I don't know, it was like still kind of me just like trying different stuff. It was like a little, still kind of in the bedroom pop lane, but a little more like maybe a little closer to what I'm doing now. But it was like kind of a transitionary period, and I wasn't really like releasing music or being super active online. I was kind of just experimenting a lot. It was pretty stressful because I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. I hadn't like announced I was quitting Young Nugget. I mean, I still like, I don't know, people were like, where's the music? Like, why are you just going ghost? Because I just like hadn't posted for months, you know? And people were used to like me releasing music every like month or two. But I just was kind of like going MIA from the internet and just like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then, yeah, I guess I just reached a place where I felt like, I don't know, I still deal with this a bit today, but I felt like I was too focused on the attention, the streams and all of that, like everything that came with that from Young Nugget, and that was like kind of what was driving me more than the music. And I felt like
the reaction of it.
Yeah, and like and that wasn't really why I wanted to make music. So I think for me, stopping Young Nugget was kind of me trying to push myself to focus more on the music itself and to be driven by that, and as opposed to like just the success and like I wanted to just push myself to really to make music that I loved, and to like I don't know, just not focus on the success of the music as much, and just be like, I'm gonna make music I love, and I'm not gonna be just driven solely by what's gonna get attention and numbers and all that, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what pushed me to just announce like I'm gonna retire. And then we're getting into fall 2021, and I had just gone through like a breakup, and I was definitely still in like a pretty rough headspace. But that was kind of when I found that's the first time I tried making music that was like more vulnerable and sad, and like I had all the music I was making before were like love songs, like they were still pretty happy and upbeat, like all the bedroom pop shit.
Was this when Hesitation came out?
Yeah, and that's when I started writing Hesitation, was like after that breakup. And so then like that was like the first song I made that was like more like in that kind of more vulnerable, more sad, more and stylistically obviously too, it's a bit farther from bedroom pop, a bit more into like indie rock, post punk. I mean, it was a new sound for me. So
it's a great song. I love it.
Thanks, man. Yeah. And that was definitely like a really, I don't know, it was just, I'm very fortunate that things happened the way they did, because that was like the song that I announced right when I announced my retirement, you know?
Wow.
Like that same day that I dropped the song, I posted the video announcing I'm retiring, like had the link to the song and everything in that video, and like just kind of tried to bring as many people I could, again, without selling it, but just saying like very honestly. The YouTube video was very bare bones, just me in my bedroom talking into the camera, explaining like, okay, I'm retiring, like this is why. So I just did it in as genuine of a way as I could, you know. And then I dropped the song, and yeah, right away the song really, that was really mind blowing for me, that the song was like did as well as it did, and people cared about it as much, because I hadn't dropped music in a little over 6 months, which was the longest it ever been for me. And I like in my mind I was like, okay, I don't know if anyone's even gonna care anymore. Like people might have already forgotten about me.
Absolutely,
yeah. It went crazy, man. People loved it. And that was just so like, it really was very gratifying. And again, the thing about it is like, that's something I've realized as time has gone by, is that like it's something I still struggle with, the idea of art versus, or like the art versus the success that comes along with it, you know?
Wow, yeah.
But Hesitation was a very beautiful moment where I had both. It was like this song that just resonated with me so much, and that I had really felt like I had pulled a lot out of me, and like really pushed me as an artist. And then also it performed really well, and like really helped me to build an audience. And that was like, it's a beautiful thing, and it felt really great.
That's so cool.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's like where the two finally collided. It's like you'd been trying so hard to get to this place where like you were making something that you loved and you feel like people loved, and then you got it. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. I can't lie. I mean, it felt like that risk and that leap I had made, it was like paying off, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was really, that kind of gave me like the courage and motivation to keep pushing with this music. And yeah, I mean, since then I've just kind of been on that same trajectory of making that, I mean, I wouldn't say like, I'd say my sound is still evolved a bit, but
Totally.
but yeah, that was really what kind of gave me that like that push to keep going. Because I mean, even at that point, my junior year of college, like I wasn't even sure that I was going to pursue music as a career after school. Like I was still like, okay, there's a very real chance that I'll get a full-time job. And I mean, I was never going to quit music, but like I wasn't sure that I was going to be as serious about it as I am now. So I mean, that pushed me to be like, all right, I'm gonna take this seriously.
Did you put in like a ton of work between, because the song before it, 40 Days, right? What it's called?
Yeah.
The song before that versus Hesitation, there's like a world of difference in like the production quality and the mix quality.
For sure, man.
Were you like during that 6-month period, like where you were like deciding, I guess simultaneously deciding to fully go into Andrew Garden, you were like getting over this past, or I guess there was a breakup at that point, and then you were getting over like this previous iteration of your life? Were you like really putting your head down and focusing and working? Because the quality between those two songs just crazy jump.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think like it was just a lot of just me being like just working on songs that either like I would start a song, and I don't know, it was a very frustrating process. And I still experience this a lot, where I'll start songs and then I won't finish them, and then it'll be like a half finished idea, but like all those half finished ideas kind of build to like what you eventually finish, you know what I mean? And like, but yeah, it was, I don't know, honestly, man, like it was, I was pretty hard on myself, and I felt like I was like, I'm not working hard enough, like I'm not finishing songs, I'm not like, I need to be putting out music, like I need to be showing people what I'm making, that's like where the work is. But I was working really hard to find my style and to grow as an artist. And yeah, thanks, man. That's really nice of you to say that, because I feel like that.
Of course, dude.
That's something where like during that period, you know, no one to the outside world, it's like, what is this? Where is this dude out? What is he doing? You know what I mean? Like, and they don't see the work that goes on behind the scenes, you know. And like, yeah, I think a big thing for me also was like just working on my singing. Like that was also when I was doing vocal lessons and like really trying to improve as a singer.
How was the experience with like vocal lessons like?
Yeah, it was been really helpful. I've done vocal lessons with a couple of different teachers, but at that point I was working with a teacher that was in my hometown, Austin, Texas, and like while I was at home. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the vocal lessons are great for like teaching you techniques to like improve, but with any sort of lessons, the real progress comes from like your own practice, and like so it's just like, I don't know, I wouldn't say they're like absolutely necessary, because the internet has so many different like resources where you can learn these techniques online, but they are very helpful to like get feedback from like another human being, you know, who like knows what they're talking about, as opposed to just like a YouTube video. But yeah, man, that definitely helped me a lot I'd say the singing lessons, and also like improving my vocal production skills, like as far as learning like how I wanted the vocals to sit in the mix and how I wanted them to sound. I don't know, but I also like I don't know, I also like, I guess I do feel like I also can't, like, I have to give a lot of credit to like the producer of that song. Gray Skies is a super awesome producer I still work with, but that production was also just like another like leap and bound above the 40 Days, and that was like that was mainly him. That wasn't like I mean,
was the first one self-produced?
40 Days. No, I had like, that was also, I mean, that was a little bit more collaborative with another producer, but but I did self-produce very early on Andrew Garden stuff. I don't know if any of it's still on Spotify. I kind of took some of that stuff down, just like 2018, 2019, but the early stuff was self-produced. I was self-producing Young Nugget stuff too. I think that I kind of realized around 2021 that I was like, I guess in my mind, I recognize the limitations of my own skills as a producer, especially making like this kind of music. And the biggest limitation is honestly just my guitar skills, because a lot of the music is guitar driven. I've been taking guitar lessons since I got here. That's like a big focus of mine right now, is to improve as a guitarist. I want to be able to do that, play more guitar live too. But I guess I kind of recognized my own limitations and was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to make, again, that gap with skill and taste. I don't have the skills to make music that is on the level, produce music that's on the level of my taste, you know? So I'm going to start like working with other producers, outsourcing that, and like that'll help take my music to another level. And like, I have so much respect for people that are entirely self-produced. Like, I think that is incredible, but I also like I'm glad that I made that decision, because I think if I hadn't, I mean, I think it helped improve my music. But I don't know. I have a lot of respect for people who put in the work to entirely self-produce, you know, and that's definitely a place that I want to get to down the road, you know. That's a long-term goal of mine. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me it was also like, I guess because I had this already pre-existing audience, I kind of knew, like I was aware that, or I don't know, in my mind at least, I was like, I felt like I had like a time limit almost, or I was like, I knew, that's why I was talking about the whole 6 months of not releasing music. Like to me, that felt like forever, which is crazy to say because that's really not even that long. But in my eyes, I was like, if I keep waiting to make music, if I take the year or probably more than the year that it would take to really like master self-production, like I don't know if these people will still care about my music, which is, it's a tough thing. I don't know. I mean, that's not the most healthy mentality, but that was part of my thought process, honestly. Just like that was like me coming from like a very like realistic, pragmatic place. I was like,
interesting.
I want like, but that's also, like I said, that's why I really respect people that will take that time and take the effort and they're like, fuck it, like I'm gonna do this all myself. Like I think that shit is really cool, and I think now I'm in a place where I have more time where I want to be able to like be releasing music consistently, but also have the time to develop my skills as a producer, so I can do both, and then like eventually transition to playing a bigger role in the production, you know. But yeah, it's just a process, man. I don't know, but I forgot. I guess you were talking about like the transition, like the improvement in quality between those two songs. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it just came down to I think both an improvement in both taste and skill. If we're going back to that idea, I think that was in between 2020 and 2021. I really like both of those things became, in my eyes, they kind of took a step up. So.
And they grew, and they probably got closer. Like the gap probably became a little bit smaller.
For sure, man. That's a really, like, getting to a point where I was like, okay, like I can actually make this kind of music that I love now. That was really like very gratifying, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. And that's another reason why, like, I think getting more into that experience, now you're good, of like, I don't know, of reaching a point where, because I remember like when I made my first beat back in like 2016, it was like a shitty trap beat or whatever, but like being so hyped on it and being like, this is the best thing ever, you know? And
well, it's all relative.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just, that's the beauty of making something. It's like, it's almost like when you're in the process of making making a song, like that's always how I feel whenever I make a song, is I'm like, right after I make it, I'm like, this is incredible, you know? And that's like, it's really cool, that experience of like, I don't know, like I would love to like hear like, I don't know, like Lex Friedman or something, we were talking about like break down like the psychology behind like how that works, where it's like when you're in that session or you're in that room and you're making that song, like right after it's done, your brain just thinks like, for me it's just like you lose all objectivity and you're like, this is incredible, you know? And then you're
obsessed with it.
Yeah, and then you need the little bit of space to come back and like and like be able to recognize that there's certain parts that may need to be improved upon or whatever. But the reason I was saying that was that that's kind of like another like place I want to get to, where I want to be able to have that experience of creating with like self-production, where I want to be able to be like that, to feel like I can self-produce music that is on the level of the music that I love, you know?
I think that's when you get to the point where it's like you can create the things that are the most accurate to your taste.
So totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because it's like if you can fully self-produce every idea as soon as it comes to you, you can run to your computer and just create the thing that exists in your head. I remember when I got to that point with Premiere and just like in video editing software, like when I got to the place where like I could have an idea and I knew how to get there, it was like I was no longer battling the software, and it's like I was now controlling it.
That's amazing.
You know, it's the coolest feeling.
Yeah, man, that's definitely like, no, that's so true. Because I remember even like that summer I was talking about, where I was like kind of in the limbo period. Like I remember having that thought where I was like, I know what music I want to make, but I just can't like get there yet.
Make it, yeah.
And then like when I found that, when I was like I was first listening to the instrumental for Hesitation, that was definitely a moment where I was like, because I had been working on other songs that were like, in my eyes, at least at the time, I had felt like, oh, these songs are like, maybe I felt like I could, I don't know how to. I guess like maybe they were closer to what I had been making, like the 40 Days kind of sound.
Yeah.
And they were definitely happier, more upbeat. And I was like, and so in my eyes, I was like, this is like a safer style to go with. And then when I found that instrumental, I was like, listening to it, I was like, oh, like in my eyes, it was like, this is even more of a risk to do. But like, I was like, this is just so good, I have to just go for it. You know what I mean? And like, and then that was the whole process of like, that was a song where I worked on that one song for like, probably like 2 months or 2.5 months, which isn't like that crazy, but like,
so cool.
I mean, yeah, I just like, it just took a long time to really lock into like how I wanted the vocal production to be and all that stuff. But I guess like, yeah, I don't know. It was just a very like, it was a big jump for me. But yeah, man, it's cool to talk about that journey because it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. You mentioned coming from like a very, very like real, like
pragmatic, realistic background.
Yeah, realistic, pragmatic. Thank you. I couldn't remember what the word. I was trying to remember the word pragmatic, but yeah, like a very realistic, pragmatic background.
Yeah.
Do you think that comes from like your parents? And
sure,
if
totally.
so, how did they feel about the Young Nugget music? If I can ask, if that's not too personal.
No, it's all good. I don't think that they were honestly, or they were supportive of it from the start. Like they were never really like, they were never. No, I think that they honestly they recognized that I was like relatively serious about it even from the start. They were like that I was taking it seriously, at least in the sense of like I wanted to keep doing it and keep like, and it meant a lot to me. And so because it meant a lot to me, I think they were always like
cool,
never gonna like shit on me for it, and they were never gonna stop me from doing it, which is like really, I'm very thankful for that, because that would have sucked if they were like trying to like stop me from releasing music. But yeah, they were always supportive, and I'm very glad that. Because I don't know, I could honestly, if I was in their shoes,
I could see it being hard to understand as people who are like our parents' age, because that like didn't exist when they were growing up.
And also like, I don't know, I showed it to them right around the time I was like applying to colleges, and I could see them being like, oh, this is gonna stop you from getting into school or whatever. But like, I think that was the thing that they kind of like made a point of, and I also made a point of, was I was like, I'm just gonna like make sure this is like very detached from my own name, so that like no colleges could find it and like be like, oh, this is like whack or whatever, like this is offensive. You know?
I don't think they would. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. That was something I was also thinking about. I think my parents, their personality is just inherently pretty. Like I said, none of them are musicians. They're pretty pragmatic. So that kind of rubbed off on me from the start. So even before I showed them the music, I was already like thinking about that type of stuff, like about colleges finding us. Like I was already having those thoughts myself. So I didn't really need them to be like, you need to worry about X and Y. Like I feel like that was already, I don't know, that's just kind of my personality, for better or for worse. Like I definitely can, I definitely just am, that's just how I think, I guess. So like,
I've thought about that before, bro. Like there's hours and hours and hours and hours of me talking on the internet, and none of it's bad. Like I'm proud of all of it. But there is like, if somebody did want to like, you know, like find some narrative about me, they probably could. I mean, there's like, you're the 112th musician I've interviewed, crazy, so it's like,
it's impressive.
Yeah, thank you, bro. So it's like people could like, there's so many hours of me talking on the internet. It's weird to think about.
That's kind of cool though. I mean, I think that, I don't know, man. I like, I used to worry about that a little bit, but at this point, like, I think that,
you're doing good. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm
trying to like find a way to articulate it, but I just like, I don't really, I guess at this point, I feel like it's like you said, if someone wants to create a narrative or try and do that, like, you're never going to be able to stop them anyway. So like, why let that stop you from creating? You know what I mean? Like,
you can't like preemptively avoid that.
Yeah. And like, and at that point you're like self-censoring, which is like, or maybe that's not the right word, self-censoring, but like you're limiting your creativity, which is like, that's not healthy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, 100%. Maybe you could educate me on this. I'm curious about it. That like side of the meme rap stuff, like, when labels get involved in that stuff, like, how do they do so? And like, did the labels ever come around when you were doing that stuff at all, or like?
So when I was in high school, I made a beat that was like, it sampled like "Don't Worry, Be Happy," you know, like here's a little song I wrote. Yeah, with the whistle, yeah. And they sampled the whistle, and then these guys got a hold of it, these meme rap guys, and they made like a parody of that. And it's called Oreo, and it did really well. And yeah, it was going viral on TikTok and stuff. And then label was trying to like sign this artist, the artist, I doubt he would listen to this, but his name's Shotgun Willie. So if you're listening to this, Shotgun Willie, he's a pretty cool dude. I know him pretty well. But anyways, shout out to him. But he was
shout
like,
out to Shotgun Willie.
he was so he was going viral with that song, and the label was trying to step in to sign him, and then like they sent me some paperwork to clear it, which was like super scary to me because I didn't know what that shit was. I was in high school. And then right around the same time, that was when like the writer Bobby McFerrin of the original song found it, and he was like not happy with it.
Whoa.
He was really offended by it, so he got it deleted.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's still like off of all streaming. It's never been brought back up. And I've talked to the guy Josh Shotgun Willie, and apparently like there was like a lawsuit as well, but I don't know the details behind that. That's stuff I don't really know about. But yeah, it was pretty bad for him.
He didn't like the flip.
Yeah, I mean it was like I said, they were talking about, it was much, I think he's an older dude, so I probably pretty offensive to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just generic meme rap stuff they were singing about. But anyways, yeah, so that was like the first time I'd ever experienced that. And then yeah, when songs were going viral and stuff, I had a few labels that were like reaching out, but it's pretty hard to get involved with labels with that kind of music because of all the samples, you know?
Oh yeah, it's so internet. It's like
yeah. I probably had more labels talk to me since I did the Andrew Garden stuff than when I was doing the Andrew stuff. Thanks. Yeah. Just because it's like way more labels are also it's way easier for them to understand.
It's a lot easier. Yeah.
They just like they know where this can fit within their current machine, so it's like
100%. That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any of the artists besides Gravy are signed to a label that have ever done that I know of that do meme rap. Like not a single other one has ever signed.
Is BB No Money signed?
No, he's totally independent.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, he's a legend for that. He's a legend for that. Like that shit is so.
Because he's at the point where he could have signed, right?
I think his song La 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 is signed to Columbia.
Okay.
But it's like a one-off deal. I don't know. I'm just, this is like, I don't have any inside knowledge of this at all. I just like follow it very closely because I was in that scene. But like, I don't know. I could be talking about my ass, but I mean, I do know he's independent, but I don't know the rest of his deal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you about the latest two songs you've put out. So they definitely are in like a very different vein, like some of the other stuff.
Totally, yeah.
Even like also like definitely the first stuff, and then also even like the more second stuff, and even the EP as well. The last two tracks have been very, very different. They do feel like shoegazier and heavier. Is that a direction that you're getting more interested in and trying to move towards? Is that something you wanted to do in the past? But
honestly, man, I really got inspired by it like earlier this year. There was this one artist. He's this dude, and this is again all internet shit. But his artist name is Flying Fish. I don't know if you've heard him before, but he makes like shoegaze, and he's like, came across his like TikTok of he was posting about it, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, and I hit him up and. Yeah, he's just like some 15-year-old kid that lives in like Arizona, just like making music in his room, and like his music is like blown. Like I hit him up and he had music on Spotify, and now he has like 1 million monthly listeners, dude. Like he's like, and it's so cool to see, and that's like stuff really again resonates with me because it's like it's so relatable to like what I was doing when I was in high school when I was just making music in my room, and like I've literally seen his setup, and it's just like a laptop and like a blue snowball, and like it's just so cool, man.
That's crazy, dude. So anybody who records into a USB mic is so I used to do that shit too. Yeah, that's so cool.
But yeah, man, I just think that shit is so cool, and that really inspired me. Like, and there's some other artists in that same vein who kind of just came from the internet and have been making shoegaze. There's other artist Wisp that's really fire. This band Juggler too that I'm homies with that live in LA. But anyways, just like there's kind of this emerging scene of people in that kind of vein, and that's like again, like I said, subculture scenes really are exciting to me. So
I agree.
That was really cool to me. Yeah, man, I don't know, but I think recently I definitely have also kind of had that similar. I don't know. I think that I've realized that same thought process that I had years ago when I was dealing with Young Nugget and transitioning is still present today, where it's like. I built up an audience, smaller than Young Nugget, but still an audience that like is more interested in the alternative indie rock stuff. You know what I mean? And the slower shoegaze stuff is like definitely a change for them, you know. And it's like it's a similar kind of experience where it's like, okay, like what is like it gonna take for me to be able to like find people that resonate with this music, or like, or how am I gonna balance that? How do I navigate that? You know? But I don't know. I think that's honestly I'm still figuring out. Like I don't have an answer to that, you know. But I think that it's just like I think. When I was 20, I guess I was 19, 20 when I first had that realization of like being driven by numbers and like not wanting that to happen. Like I guess part of me felt like once I transitioned to Andrew Garden, like I wouldn't really have to deal with that anymore. But I realize now that I'm a bit older that that's never like totally gonna go away. And like as long as capitalism exists in music and like I'm trying to make music as a career, then like that's always gonna be like a thought. So I don't know. I'm trying to navigate that, I guess, to be honest. Like I don't really. Another reason that I've always wanted to stay independent as an artist is because I like being able to kind of I like not having. If I was signed to a label, then I would have to like. I feel like I'd have less room to experiment and try and put out singles the way I have and like. And
true.
We've talked about this before. I remember we were talking about this when we were at Atlanta show where you were talking about like experimenting in public, you know?
That's right.
And like, I would say that what I've been doing over the last few months has kind of just been that, honestly. And like, I don't know. I think that's like I'm okay with that. I don't know. Like, I think that like.
I think it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I think that like, I don't know. I think that if some people are turned off by the new music or whatever the perception of it is, or alternatively the people that are really resonate with the shoegaze stuff, like either way, that's something that I can't control that. So I'm just gonna like be making the music that I really love. But yeah, I do love shoegaze music a lot, and I definitely want to keep exploring that genre. But I've been working on music that's a little closer to my EP as well. Like I've been working on a lot of different styles of music, so. I don't know, man. I think right now I'm definitely still in a stage, honestly, where I feel like the stage I'm in right now is in some ways similar to that summer 2021 I was talking about, where I was experimenting a lot. It's just that this time I'm pushing myself to just keep releasing stuff too, which as opposed to like keeping it all hidden, which is I don't know. I'm proud of. I like that I'm doing that because I feel like I don't know. I guess the only like. I think the one thing that you do kind of maybe sacrifice a bit when you're doing this experimenting as public is maybe there's a bit less of like a
lore
or a super consistent artistic vision where maybe things feel a little different. But I also something I really have realized as of late is that I think a lot of people that listen to music in general and listen to my music, like they just like I think it's so much just they care so much more about like the music itself than like the overall like I don't think that a lot of people hear like I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I guess like let's say tomorrow I dropped like an indie rock song that was like one of my best songs ever and it was like super great. I don't think that there would be many comments that were like, this is not consistent artistically with your last song. Like, I think people would just be like, this is sick. You know what I mean? Like
that's another instance of that like overthinking we were talking about.
Totally, man. It's like, and that's how you block yourself in, like just without just your own mind. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd fall into that trap all the time, but like, I try and remind myself that like, it's so much more of like, and that's like, it's so much more of like the artist thinking that, like, it's so much more me thinking that this stuff isn't consistent or like that's and using that as an excuse to not experiment than like that's being the reality. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's just so much more the reality of the situation is that 95% of people that listen to my music are not going to be bothered by that, and that's not going to be like a turn off for them. That being said, I do definitely think that there's I think it's really impressive and valuable when artists have very consistent visions and very like cohesive rollouts, and that's like that's my goal. By the goal of this experimentation is not to just do that for like the goal is to be able to find a sound that like that exactly that I'm able to then build off of and create a larger form project, etc. You know? Yeah. But yeah, I guess right now I'm not quite there yet, and that's like something I've been trying to accept and just like work through. So, I mean, that's definitely, and like I said before when I was talking about that period of 2021, it's definitely frustrating at times, but it's like. I don't know, man. I think it's valuable because I think it's necessary to make the best music possible. Because if I hadn't had that period in 2021, I'd probably still be making like that bedroom pop stuff, which is like is not inherently a bad thing, but I think I would never have been touched upon the music like meditation and everything that's come with it, and that stuff is like amazing. I'm really proud of it. So
I think they're so cool that I totally agree with you. I think because I very much come from like I talk to Mario about this all the time. I was like such a chronically online kid. So much of what Above the Bridge is like so ultra internet catered and so based in like video game lore and like random shit like that. But like I was so online that like so much of my music infatuation, like when I became obsessed with this stuff, it came from like online culture and like so many like, you know, little pockets online. Like there's all these like I was so into the slash r slash hardcore hip hop, or like slash r slash underground hip hop, or like slash r slash rock music, or like there's so or like pop heads. I was on like the pop red subreddit all the time.
I know that one.
Yeah, I was so like into like I loved like the Topster community and like all that shit, just like the really really ultra online like music. Like I was on Rate Your Music, I was on albumoftheyear.org, like all these websites where I was just so online based. And it's crazy to me that in that period of time I found so many musicians that like have no footprint in LA, have no footprint in New York. Their footprint is just in these small niche online communities. They don't tour, they don't open up for people, they aren't signed, they're not part of like this traditional industry structure. They just exist in like this small pocket online, but they have these huge fan bases. Like there's this artist named Avenade that I've been following for years, and he's so good. He's like a shoegaze artist out of Arizona, but he's so
I'm gonna check that out.
yeah, so good. But he just exists. You're right, he's very similar. He's like 18 years old. He just exists in like Arizona, has no connection to like any of the outside world,
so
nothing.
cool,
and there's like so much of that, and it's so cool to me that like, or like another one is this guy Cottonwood Firing Squad.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, who I found on the internet, who
cool.
recently has got like way bigger, but I've been listening to him for like 5+ years.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool.
It's like all these like little communities, and it's so strange.
How'd you find his music, the Cottonwood Firing Squad?
I have no idea.
That's so cool, man. Because I probably come across him over the last year, but like I think what's cool about artists like that, like for example Cottonwood Firing Squad, when I found the music, like I could kind of tell that there was like there is a sense of like, oh, this is a bit unconventional in a bit, and like I think that it's hard to articulate, but the years of being in those underground communities kind of show in a way where like you can kind of sense that, and that's like the coolest thing, man. It's like just even like his name and like just everything. Yeah, it
just feels online. I know exactly what you mean.
It's really cool, man. That's something that yeah, I don't know. It's just that's something that I think about a lot, and that I want to bring into my own artistic project as well, as like having a sense of that, like, because I think that's the coolest shit for sure.
And it gives people something to like figure out, which is like really really sick.
Yeah, man, that's a good way of putting it.
And it's like, just like when I moved to LA, I realized like that is so different from like what it feels like to be a musician or work in music in LA, because it's like here it's like the whole point is you have your face everywhere, you're meeting people, you're everywhere. That feels like what the music industry is to me. But there's so many kids that are just like on the internet making music that just like are not part of the music industry, which is crazy.
I used to be like, when I was making music at first, I was like that. I was like, I almost had, I don't know what the right word for it is, but I almost like felt like a negative. I had like a negative view of like the traditional way music worked, and I felt like in some ways I had like a bit of like, I felt like superior to it in some ways, because I was like, I don't need all the shit you guys have, you know? Like I have like, I'm able to do what I'm doing without all this traditional shit. Like that's like, and I can't lie, like I still think that's really cool. That's also why I think like what Baby No Money's doing, I think being independent is still like really cool. But I think, I guess now that I've learned to not see it in such a black and white way, and to recognize that there's like elements of traditional music structure like touring and I don't know, just meeting people face to face and like being people as human beings, like it's still a very cool thing. But yeah, I don't know, I'm always definitely gonna have a love for the non-traditional internet shit for sure. Like
it's all beautiful and it all exists simultaneously and it's all everywhere and it's all okay, and that's the coolest part about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like it's just that as I've gotten older, like I said, I've started to look at things in a way where you can appreciate the beauty in both and both aspects and both parts, both the non-traditional and the traditional, and not look at things, because I don't know, I think when I was younger, I would look at things, like I said, in a very black and white, like a very like, this is good, this is bad, like kind of way. And the truth is that everything exists on kind of more of like a scale spectrum, of like, yeah, exactly. And that's, now I'm getting a little more overly philosophical, but that's just like that's something I've learned more as I've gotten older for sure.
No, I totally feel it. Last question I want to ask you. if there's one message that you could spread through your music, like, and you know, when you're all said and done, when Andrew Garden is no more, and the music you've made has been made, what is that message? What would you want to say?
That's a great question. I would say, okay, I guess that the as an artist and like just as someone who creates stuff, I think that the most important thing that like I hope that people can take away from me, from my art, is the idea of I guess just the idea that of not letting your fear of being embarrassed or your fear of other people's perception of you stop you from trying things. I guess the simpler way to put it is that no one really cares what you do, and that's like a very freeing thing. So accepting that 99% of people are going to forget about what you do, whether it's really cringy or really amazing. They're going to forget about it in like a week, you know what I mean? And they're going to worry about their own life. And so taking that idea and using it as an inspirational thing to be like, I'm going to try, and if I fail at this, then that's going to be embarrassing to me for a couple days, and then everyone else is going to forget about this. So like let me use that as an empowering idea. So I guess no one cares, but that's a good thing. I don't know. That's a succinct way of putting it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh yeah, this was fun, man.
A really cool conversation. Your story to me is very, very, very interesting, and like there's parts that are super relatable. I think like I really relate to like growing up chronically online and having that alter the way that you see the rest of the world, alter the way that you grow up, and just the way that you interact with the things that come your way. It's very, very, it's a very niche experience, I think, to a lot of people, but it's really cool. So I really enjoyed this.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like we were on the same page about a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to hear. So,
yeah. Thank you, man. Tell them where they can stream you, where they can find you, they can follow you, they can see you live, do all the things.
Yeah. All right. So this is the selling part, I guess. But yeah,
yes,
Andrew Garden on Spotify, Instagram, Andrew Garden, though with one extra in, but still got Andrew Garden, you'll find it. Same. I mean, I think if you just look that up, you'll find me. So, and then I think if you want to, if by some chance you haven't heard about the Young Nugget music, I think as well, like I think if you look up Andrew Garden, like both will show up. So just look that up and you'll see all that stuff we talked about.
Watch it all.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro. Cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate you. Music matters.